Big news though this week is the 5 federal by-elections with all 5 seats staying exactly as they were before, making the whole exercise feel even more pointless than politics usually does. So for example in Mayo, Georgina Downer, seen here looking just so happy to be alive, took the opportunity created by her losing to use her concession speech to announce that she would run in the seat again, presumably because she just hates herself. The ALP held Braddon in Tasmania, albeit with a little help from local independent and garbage man, presumably, Craig Garland. And they held on in Fremantle and Perth, although the seat of Perth does now appear to be held by someone who's definitely not the Dark Lord, which does make the Coalition's decision not to run against Patrick Gorman in Perth a little less comprehensible. Although, hey, maybe they just think he's a better chance of supporting their company tax cuts now. But one of the biggest stories of the night was the ALP's Susan Lamb, who is, tragically for her, still in Longman, and who was re-elected with a swing of more than 3%. It's almost as if her opponents were surrounded by some kind of controversy, you know, like the LNP's Big Trev, who will now have to return to his natural home in Nambour, taking bites out of the big pineapple, who courted controversy by claiming a military medal he hadn't actually earned. And then there was One Nation candidate Matthew Stephen, who tried to sell his tiling company to a definitely not made-up Irishman, Stephen O'Donovan, to avoid having to pay a $13,000 court-ordered damages bill. It's like if Stephen had gone to a fancy restaurant, ate the meal, then kicked over the fish tank, retiled the kitchen in a subpar fashion, and sold his bill to an Irishman whose only claim to existence is a Facebook page with about as much social media presence as a badger. And Hanson herself wasn't actually in Longman for the by-election, as she was on a long-planned cruise through Europe, which was either a pilot for another series of SBS's Go Back to Where You Came From, or just her attempt to find Irishman Stephen O'Donovan for herself. But for more on the implications to be drawn from the by-elections, we turn now to resident news goth, Rose Bishop.
Devastating scenes in the Canberra Press Gallery, Pat.
Really? It actually looks pretty festive behind you, I'd have said.
That's right. The mood here is funereal as the Press Gallery mourns a by-election where no seats changed hands whatsoever. Crisis teams are currently tending to shell-shock journalists as absolutely no change at all occurred on election night.
Sorry, Rose, I must say I'm not quite following you there.
Pat, do you have any idea how tedious the 24-hour news cycle is for a political correspondent? Day after day of mind-numbing policy doorstops, politicians reading scripted talking points with all the conviction of Keanu Reeves on Valium, idiotic statements from thirsty backbenchers. It's just...
but Rose, I don't think that's...
Pat, I'll tell you when you can speak. Do you have any idea how rare it is that something actually happens in politics? Sure, occasionally you get a Nazi here or there, but by and large it's all passing legislation and backbiting. There's no drama. Elections are for us, Pat. Elections are what make this job worthwhile. They're meant to clear out the dead wood and give us some shiny new toys to play with, but no, the voters had to go and be a bunch of joyless bastards.
But Rose, isn't that just democracy? I mean, people made up their minds and voted for who they wanted to vote for.
Jesus, Pat, this isn't The Voice, this is real life. I'm a political reporter, okay? So yeah, I'm a messy bitch who's addicted to drama. Any whiff of a leadership challenge is enough to keep the monkey off our backs, but when a leader gets rolled or there's a change of government, it's like meth cut with crack refined by God times infinity.
Rose, are you okay? How are you doing?
This is bullshit. I mean, why couldn't there just be something, anything, like Pauline Hanson's cutouts getting more votes than her candidate, or Alexander Downer drunkenly attacking that Xenophon chick? Something, anything.
But Rose, journalists are there to protect us from politicians, so reporting on internal political positioning or gossip without context doesn't really serve us all that well as citizens. I mean, that's just being a bit part in a broader political game. We should want boring news about policy detail, not unsourced rumours about how these by-elections, I don't know, might cause leadership trouble for Malcolm Turnbull.
Oh my God, leadership trouble? What have you heard? Do you know anything on the grapevine?
No.
What are your sources? Tell me, Pat. Don't hold out on me, Pat. You've got to tell me.
No, Rose, I don't have anything. That's not what a journalist should do, and you should get some help. Anyway, we'll be right back.